Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a fantastic Monday or whatever day you're listening on if this is later in the future. I'm Maximus, here with Moves, like Jagger from the GG and crew. Vance is not going to be with us this evening. And this is Tome of Knowledge, our D&D little podcast slash talk show, whatever we talk about, whatever we want in regards to D&D related things. So this evening, we're going to be talking about D&D's economy. Ooh. This is a topic that was suggested by Village Idiot. So thank you, Village, for providing that. And if you want to provide a topic for us to talk about, if you have things that you need to know about D&D, go check out our Discord. We have a channel in there that's called, I think it's Talk something. Talk Topics.
Uh,
There we go.
Talk
Talk
topics.
Topics.
Because Twitter is burning and no longer a reliable source of news or announcements.
Yep.
Join the Discord.
Yeah, join the Discord. Or just go look at our YouTube because we have awesome content out there that you should get your eyes upon in your ears. Your eyes and ears.
All the ears.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
Also, speaking of YouTube, we are under 140-ish hours to reaching our 3,000 milestone of videos viewed.
oh, watch hours, and then it's just 4,000 after that. 4,000 is the big number. That's the big goal.
That's the dream.
That
And
is the
you
dream.
can make it happen.
Only you can increase our watch hours.
Or unless we do
man.
some super crazy viral video and all the memes or something. I don't know.
I
Anyways,
am not a memer.
I'm trying my hardest. I don't know. Memes were so easy back in the day. It was just like a top text, a picture, and a bottom text. Boom, hilarious. Now memes have so many layers, and you have to know the history of an old meme, and then they sprinkle on some Microsoft Word art, and then now that's a meme, and I'm like, "What? I don't understand what this is." That's how
So
I know I'm getting old.
nuanced.
I'm too old now. I don't understand memes.
We're officially old.
Damn kids and their dang memes.
But I mean, hey, social media is going to implode soon enough anyway. So
It's true.
maybe the meme
Anyways,
economy will crash with it.
oh man, that would be great. Yeah, Reddit's on fire, Twitter's on fire.
Mm-hmm.
There's all these new platforms that people are going to sign up for and never use. It's a time to be
Yeah.
alive.
But anyway, let's talk about D&D. That's really why
That's,
we're here.
that's
And I think
the main reason we're here.
yeah, that is the main reason we're here. I'm gonna look and see what the exact question was because I paraphrased it in my notes, but I want to make sure I have the question right. So Village says she's interested in what you all think of the economy in D&D and how you prevent players from breaking it, or even vice versa, of players' thoughts on how to break it. I have some ideas on a couple of those things. Maybe we can start from the beginning, the basics. So basically, D&D's like just currency in general, right? It is it's basically a gold based currency. So it's, you got a copper piece, 10 copper pieces is a silver piece, 10 silver pieces is a gold piece, 10 gold pieces is a platinum piece. So it all boils down to denominations of copper basically. And then there's of course this electrum, which is 5 silver pieces, but nobody ever uses that.
I wonder in the next edition of whatever they're calling it, D&D, is if they're just going to get rid of it. Like no one uses it unless you're Mimi, of course.
I put that in last campaign on purpose. By the way,
For spite or just because no one uses it?
just because nobody uses it. I thought it was interesting that an older civilization may have used electrum.
And that was Mimi.
Yeah, what electrum is just basically an alloy of silver and gold, right? I'm pretty sure. But anyway, that's the I want to say the economy, the currents in D&D. Of course, you can make up your own if you want, whatever you'd like.
Yeah,
There's
the
also
gem economy. You give us a lot of gems instead. worth valued at gold?
Yeah, that was something I was going to talk about next. Actually, is so that's the main like coin currency, but there are a lot of other things in D&D, like you were saying with gems that are meant to basically be like higher value items without having to carry as much stuff. Because there are a lot of VMs that actually will track like coin weight and stuff like that are really strict on the rules as far as like how much you can carry, and that's where kind of gems comes in, where you can just have like a jewel that's worth like 50 or 100 gold pieces instead of carrying like a big ass satchel full of gold. So that's really useful in like how to condense players' wealth. Also, art objects too,
Oh yeah.
pieces of art, and that's not just like paintings or anything. That could be literally like sculptures or like whatever you want, just like a a little
Candelabra.
yeah, candelabra, exactly, made of platinum, or like a statue of like a bull made of gold. Other ways to sort of condense wealth, which was important, I guess, in the earlier editions because it was very strict. Like you could only you could only leave with how much you could carry in dungeons and stuff like that. So
Yep, until someone came out with a mod, like in Oblivion, where you have unlimited weight, which is AKA bag of holding, baby. Like
yeah, I think Bag of Holdings, do they have I think it still has a weight restriction. Hold
they
on.
do, yeah.
I'm gonna go on a side quest myself here to look that up because I forgot what the limit is. Holding. Bag of holding. What does the internet say? 500 pounds, and it cannot exceed a volume of 64 cubic feet. Whoever the fuck's counting that. Right? I get the weight limit, but counting the volume of a bag, I don't know about all that. That'd be a little wacky.
Well, the handy haversack has a central pouch and 2 side pouches, and each so the side pouches could carry 20 pounds of material, not exceeding
Mhm.
the volume of 2 cubic feet. So that's 40 pounds right there. And the center is 80. So you're looking at 120 pounds worth of weight with the haversack.
Isn't that strange that the Heward's Handy Haversack is a rare item, but it has less carrying capacity than a bag of holding?
And
From what I'm
well,
seeing anyway.
because yeah, bag of holding is a wondrous item, uncommon. And
Yep.
then handy sacks are just right one. Wow.
Never
Why
really
is
thought
that?
about that until I saw this just now. But anyway. But yeah,
There you have it.
gems are great use. Instead of giving people a ton of coins, letting them trade them in and out. It's really good. And also like I've done a couple like thought experiments on this and read a lot of stuff online of trying to convert like how much a gold piece is in like US dollars. I've seen a couple of different arguments on this of like trying to figure out like what the economy is like. I think the one that I like the best, it's the easiest, is like one copper piece is $1, because then that puts into like a mug of ale is like 4 copper pieces, about $4. Maybe not in this economy now, but it made sense probably about 10 years ago.
That makes a lot of sense, actually, if you think about it. Yeah.
Which makes plate very expensive. which makes sense because back, I say back then, but D&D is fake, but I guess back in in times in the real world, like plate armor
It's
was very
fantasy,
expensive and only
fantasy
nobles and knights
medieval.
had that. Yeah.
Plates what, 1,500 gold, right?
Yeah. So $150,000. Yeah,
It's a
copper
lot
being
of
$1 made sense like 2010. Maybe now it's like a copper is like $3. I don't know. Anyway,
let's not get into inflation and in Dungeons and Dragons.
yeah, I mean, yeah. let's keep some of the real world in the real world, so I don't have to fucking worry about that. But as far as like some of the like economy in D&D There is a little bit of guidance in, I think it's the PHB, of it has some like charts and stuff for like your like living expenses and like services and stuff like that. So they've got a nice little chart of like lifestyle expenses, and basically what how they handle lifestyle expenses is it's broken down simple way for like cost of living in the fantasy world. So if you're in a city, for a week, how much is it going to cost for you to live that week without having to get into the nitty gritty of buying every single meal, doing every single thing. And they have a chart from like lifestyles that include like wretched, squalid, poor, modest, comfortable, wealthy, and aristocratic. And they range from, well, wretched's nothing, from one silver piece all the way up to like 10 gold pieces per day. And there's some interesting information on like what each tier means. Like certain tiers, you're basically like living like on straw on the floor and you're more prone to disease, like all that other kind of junk. I think most of the time, you all have been either like poor or modest, depending on where you're at and stuff like that in the current campaign. If you want like a adjustment, but they have those living expenses. They also have like quick like charts for like food, drink, and lodging. So whenever you go to um the local tavern and inn where you've been staying in campaign 2, I've just been using modest. It's like 3 silver pieces, like I think per person. Oh no, it's 5 silver pieces per person to stay per night. So nice little like roundabout stuff. It'll tell you like how much wine is, like ale, like bread, just kind of give you like a general idea of how much things cost.
Man, we're doing it wrong because 5 silver pieces a day, that's like
At an inn, yeah.
at an inn, that's like on a farmer or peasant wages, that's a lot of money. So we should just start running our own tavern is what we should be doing.
We'll get into that a little later into this episode. But it's interesting to think about because in it later on it has um also not everyone stays in like an inn, right? It's equivalent to like staying in a hotel. Most people just stay home.
Yeah, yeah.
But it also has like stuff like with services, and it talks about hirelings between like skilled and like untrained. So an untrained hireling makes 2 silver pieces per day, and then a skilled hireling makes 2 gold pieces per day. And what they basically call like untrained are like laborers, porters, like maids, and then skilled hirelings are people that have like some sort of, it involves a proficiency. So they say like a guard or an artisan or a scribe, like that kind of stuff. What makes you trained versus untrained, that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, that does make sense. What you're saying, village, is like when you're staying in an inn, you get like a bath. You might like you get security. You get like better quality food items and things like that.
Yeah, well, it's depending on where the inn is and what district it is in. Like, we're in the slums, you're
Yeah,
probably not gonna get that kinda high quality of service.
yeah.
You
And
know,
Shinner, you make a good. Oh, go ahead.
I was like, we made some cash. We're rolling in it now a little bit.
Yeah. And sure, you talk about using Kingdom and Warfare, which I think is an MCDM book, and there's also Strongholds and Followers. If you want to go deep into like having your own bases or have like kingdoms and shit, it goes way deeper than the current D&D books go into. So there's stuff out there if you want to get into it for sure. But there's some couple examples of like living expenses and stuff like that. Um, there's not a whole lot of guidance on this, which is interesting. I guess it's just not that kind of crunchy stuff that they want to do in the PHP or the DMG. There's some other stuff we'll talk about, but I think we can get into some things. I have like a list of things for like DMs on like how to keep players from like breaking the economy. Unless there's anything else you want to add about just general like living expenses and stuff like that.
No, I think most of the time it's up to the DM and stuff
Yeah,
like that, and but for the most part, like, yeah, staying at an inn is, like, It's like not even anything to concern unless you're like you're level 1 and you literally have no money to your name, but,
Hmm.
which is kinda how we were slumming it in the beginning of campaign 2, but now we're rolling.
Yeah, and something also to think about and to consider that a DM friend of mine had did that when you stay at higher quality ends, you get specific bonuses because of that. So that
Oh,
might incentivize players to spend more money, which could be interesting. Something maybe that we could consider just to make it more fun. Otherwise, it just becomes like I spend the gold, I stay the night kind of thing.
yeah, like you get temporary hit points or something, I don't know.
Hmm. Temp HP, inspiration, bonuses, all kinds of stuff like that. I think it'd be cool to do. I actually like the idea of temporary HP. Basically, give them like a free cast of like the spell aid for a day.
Yeah, I mean, if they're gonna go bougie, why not?
Yeah, for sure. But here's some things that I kind of jotted down in reference to like keeping players from break the economy, and then with a caveat of like all this stuff that we're about to discuss, it's totally based on the DM, right? You can't break the economy unless the DM lets you break the economy, right? If the DM tells you no, you can't do that, no, you can't do that. It's wise to have a discussion with your DM in the first place, is if you have some kind of idea that you want to try or something like that, or like in session 0, if you're like, hey, I like to own businesses, can we do this in this campaign, that kind of thing. So as always, just talk to your group, including your DM, about some of these things. But kind of the first thing that I want to talk about of keeping players from like breaking your economy is, first off, like your rewards that you give players for completing quests or dungeon crawling or whatever. Awarding treasure, like consider the distribution of that kind of stuff, right? Because the players are only going to get money if you give them money, pretty much, right? More often than not. And adventuring is supposed to be a lucrative business. That's why it's dangerous and not everyone does it. So basically, players in and of themselves break the economy anyway because people aren't out there adventuring and doing all this kind of crazy shit. But there are guides on, I know at least like magic items per level. I've seen some third party things of like how much gold players should have per level. I think that might be in the DMG too. I'd have to look. But kind of keeping them within like some guidelines, so you're not giving them like a million gold pieces at like level 3 or whatever, unless it's the type of game you want to play. Um, but I think that that's important distribution of wealth from the DM to the players. Um, and then another sort of asterisk on that too, like, or a bold underline, is like magic items. Um, Especially in 5th edition, they kind of stress magic items being scarce, being rare, not easily bought or sold, right? There's
Yeah, um, and I always harken back of the days of 3rd edition where, there like, everything had there were so many books and so many resources that everything had a price tag to it, so every single magic item, you knew
Mhm.
how much it cost. Crafting a magic item, you knew how much gold it took to craft said item. Owning a keep, there's, like, a price for that, there's a price tag for everything, so there was, like, endless of options of way for players to spend their gold in 3rd edition. But I find that in 5th edition, you can give players a ton of gold, but they don't really have anything to spend it on unless, like, the DM gives them options.
I will say everything that you listed is in the PHB or the DMG
Okay.
specifically. But yeah, I see what you're saying for sure. The main difference between 3rd edition 3.5 versus 5th is like in 3.5 you can just go to the magic shop and buy whatever the fuck you wanted,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Basically,
Yeah. Like, I want
I
this specific item, and it's up to the DM if it's in stock or not, you know?
I I like 5th edition's like direction on that, in that it's possible but it's rare, because that basically, giving magic items as rewards, as a DM, like I really don't want just people to like, I'm gonna sell that, I don't want it, because most of the time it's either gonna be random or like specific to some, if I'm placing something. It doesn't really, I don't know, feel good to just like dump magic items, in my personal opinion. Plus, it's a great way to break the economy if it's allowed to.
Yeah. I think it's always better to cater the items. Like, it's okay to roll because rolling for random loot's always fun.
Mhm.
But if you're in a situation or position to make sure that the items cater to at least someone in the party, like at least someone can use this rather than them wanting to sell it. Especially like if magic's items are so rare, like who's gonna have enough money to buy that
Right.
that you're trying to hawk it to?
Yeah, and there are specific rules both in the DMG and in Xanathars for buying and selling magic items. And I would strongly suggest you at least look at either one of those because it involves a series of rolls. There are complications that can happen because of it. There's a check based on like what's even available. There's rolls for that too. I would highly recommend that in both occasions because I think that I don't know, just buying magic items willy nilly and selling them kind of takes some of the magic out of it.
Mhm.
Then it just becomes that magic items aren't rare; they're just for rich people because they're the only ones that can afford them. But that's one thing that I would do is kind of restrict that kind of stuff heavily, and I think that worked okay in campaign one because you basically had a guy who was your dealer that you had to pay to go talk to other people to find stuff for you. I think it adds at least a little bit more interest than walking into a shop and just buying stuff off the shelf.
Yeah, it did add some like extra layers of just like, hey, magic shopkeep, can I get a +3 sword, please?
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like more of a hassle for our
Mm-hmm.
party because we weren't used to that kind of dealings as a
Mm-hmm.
venturing group. And then like we did have like a good amount of gold, but it's not like we had that much gold where
Mm-hmm.
we could just be like repeat customers basically.
Yeah, it kind of had that veil in front of it with some RP and stuff in it, and then also having avenues to purchase like crafted specific items. You all had that opportunity too, but it was hidden behind the one of your members had to be part of this specific order to allow that to happen too for campaign one, which you guys really didn't have access to that until you went in the story a little more
Hmm.
and had you know opportunity for that. But yeah, first things first, you're the DM's the one who controls the distribution of wealth anyway. So if your players are breaking the economy, it's your fault in the first place.
Yeah, a little side tangent story. When we're like playing third edition, but
Hmm.
like the DM was very like there are very little magic items. So, and if there are magic items, like a +1 sword instead of being 2,000 gold is going to be like 15,000 gold. So him saying that and us being a bunch of little shits, um, we were much younger in our D&E days. We turned the campaign into a enterprise campaign. Like we all started businesses, and we had we had to work on branding and marketing for said business just so we can afford a +1 sword, and it derailed the campaign completely. But honestly, it was a ton of fun, just like
That's
running a
awesome.
business campaign. So, um, you know, I blame the DM, but it was also all fault because we really wanted magic items, and so
Hmm.
instead of becoming adventurers, we became businessmen and hired adventurers to get us stuff.
It's amazing.
But yeah, just a side tangent, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, if you that's the kind of if that's the kind of game your players want to play, then adjust your DMing style because it's really about making everyone have fun. Another thing that came up too is a lot of players will basically try to craft things and not just magic items, potions, armor, things like that. And one thing a DM that you can do is sort of consider like price adjustments based on like supply and demand, right? This gets a little bit more like dungeons and economics, right? Or pins and paychecks or whatever you want to call it. But if if your player is making healing potions and selling 5 to 10 every week, right? They're going to flood the market with healing potions. The price of healing potions are going to go down. Thus, selling those healing potions are going to get them less and less money. It's an easy way to kind of handle it.
Yeah, that's true. You don't really. I think if you really want to get to the nuance of players flooding the market with crafted items, uh, that's just like extra work on the DM. If like you're cool with that, then sure. But like I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, and that's the whole thing of it, Village. When you're saying I wish less of it was stuck as the DM's job, this is stuff that's kind of outside the purview of the books anyway. They just give you information of how much things cost. They don't really add in protections of like the D&D economy because for most players that they don't care, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't fault the books for not specifically, making rules and stuff about this because realistically you can't make rules about every single scenario. I mean, I guess you could, but then we would get less books and they'd be more expensive because it would take longer.
Well, I feel like if they did have rules on everything, and strict guidelines, and then you have players who are rules lawyers, so like, well, according to paragraph 6, article 3, section 4, it was like, well, a lot of it has to be, you lose the creative and the D&D is all about being imaginative, right? So
Hmm.
I think if they were scrutinized every little detail and had books that I think it's a waste of time, and then it would make the game less fun.
I think people forget that D&D is a collaborative game and it's
Yes.
really about like a open contract between the DMs and the players of how they're going to play their game. Like a verbal contract is what I'm looking for. But yeah, crafting limitations, that kind of thing, avoiding from flooding the market, that kind of stuff. Another thing that I thought of is like what you were mentioning are like things that players can spend their money on, right?
Yeah.
Like money sinks essentially. And there are some things out there to create those opportunities for players to spend their wealth. Um, One thing that you had mentioned, right, was like investing in business, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I can say that there are in the DMG there are downtime activities, and it gives you a chart for like building. Like it's called building a stronghold. And they list like I'll just go through them. It'll list like a construction cost and how many days it takes to make a thing. It's like an abbey, like a guild hall, like a keep or a small castle, like an estate, an outpost or a fort, a palace or a large castle, a temple, a fortified tower, a trading post. Those all range from like what 5,000 gold pieces all the way up to like 50,000 gold pieces, and then construction from like 60 days up to like 1,200 days. There's things that if players want, they can build. The problem is that it's up to the DM figuring out what those things do after they build
Right.
it and buy it, right? But they are in there um, to kind of figure out, as like another way to like sink money. Another thing too is methods of travel. Like, are they going to buy horses? In our campaign, it's like, do they, for ships, like, do they want to buy their own ship? Well, that's something to, have a custom made ship or buy a used one. That's something to sink their money into. But then they have, a vessel that's legally theirs. They can do whatever they want with that kind of thing. So yeah, there's ways to make them sink money into things if they want to. Other like built-in things like wizards, like wizards want spells. Scribing spells takes money. That's another thing. You know, Other players, ammunition, you got to buy that. It's like super small stuff, like having to buy rations, that kind of thing. Little things, really. Um, I think
Yeah.
go ahead.
Like, do you think it's up like, so yeah, like, say each is sitting on 25 grand
Hmm.
of assets. Um, do you think it's up to the DM to create that money sink, or just, like, ask the players what they wanna do with this money if it's just not if the answer is like, "Well, I wanna buy magical shit."
I think it's both because it's up to the DM to come up with things for players to spend their money on, but it's also up to the players to communicate to the DM what they're interested in doing. Because let's say in the 25 grand, right? Let's say the DM's like, I come up with all these intricate like boats and ships and all these things they can spend their money on, and the player's like, we don't want to go in the fucking ocean. We don't care about boats. Then it doesn't really do you any good. But you find out the players want to build a castle, they want to build like a fort or a guild hall. Then yeah, then the DM will have to come up with mechanics and stuff on that. So yeah, for sure.
Like, if let's say, yeah, a adventure party wants to have a keep, right? But then that keep needs to be staffed. They need servants. They need people to clean up the keep, like janitors and cooks and all that stuff. So would you just do like a ballpark number? You're like, all right, just the general upkeep of your keep per month is X gold, or are you gonna like, okay, so you have X amount of servants, X amount of hirelings, X this, X that. Would you like super spreadsheet it out and then, or just give players a general number?
I'm glad you asked because chapter 6 of the DMG already has all that under the recurring expenses. So there's a downtime activities section that talks about like building a place, and then there's recurring expenses. So that's already set up. So in our example of, let's say, a guild hall that we gave earlier, it says, hey, total cost per day, 5 gold pieces. You have 5 skilled hirelings, you have 3 untrained hirelings. And it just tells you straight up. And there's things in there too that I think that aren't even in like the build a stronghold thing. So like a shop, it's like 2 gold per day, and you have 1 skilled hireling to run the store. There's even one for like a hunting lodge, all kinds of stuff. You know, for if you want to be bougie, the palace or the large castle is 400 gold per day, 200 skilled hirelings, 100 untrained hirelings. But yeah, there's all that stuff is in the DMG, so I wouldn't even spreadsheet it. I would just use that because it's already been made up. And if there's not something that exactly fits, I'd find the closest thing to that. So the thing is you've got to give players a reason to want those things, right? You got to give players a reason to want those things. So like a shop, they're going to expect to make money, right? Or expect to have chances to make money.
Right.
For the same thing for like an inn and stuff like that. You know, a hunting lodge, maybe they can make money from selling pelts or whatever. But when you get into things like an abbey or like an estate or like a temple or a tower, you've got to give them reasons. So like a fortified tower, why would they want that? Maybe there's a story benefit to having a fortified tower. Maybe they're aligned to some kingdom, and if they decide they want to furnish this tower, then it can make the kingdom more well protected, so that while they're out adventuring, their shit doesn't get messed up on like the other flank, basically. So you've got to, as DM, give them reasons to want these things, really.
Your town is under attack.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, essentially. So there's all kinds of stuff like that. um Even if it's just like businesses, aside from just making money, maybe there can be other benefits to that too. Maybe instead of just like buying a shop and then making money from it, maybe being a patron and like funding this shop gives them access to different items that they normally wouldn't get, or gives them other benefits. Maybe funding like an abbey or a temple gives them access to certain blessings, from priests and stuff that they normally wouldn't be able to get because it's not someone in their party isn't fulfilling that role. All
Hmm.
kinds of different things that you can kind of come up with, to make it a money sink, but make the reward not just money, basically. So lots of
Yeah,
stuff.
we touched a little bit of that, like in campaign one, because we had a possible opportunity to have our own keep, but we never pursued it.
Hmm.
So that could have opened up a lot of venues for us as a party adventurer in campaign one. But we
Hmm.
did invest in the little French bakery
Hmm.
in Valshir. While it wasn't like we would get access to a bunch of stuff, but we got free desserts. So that
Pretty
was like our,
much.
our number one goal.
Yeah, you got free desserts, so that's good enough for the party. It's good enough, good enough for the players. More power to them. And another thing too, that there's also the like sort of the unspoken or not really spoken about, like benefit of, yeah, you expect something out of it, but being able to like provide for something in a town is also going to buy you like, what's the word I'm looking for here? Preferential treatment, favors, like that kind of stuff, information, all of those things um, that can help out an adventuring part in this, not just money. Um, so aside from like the investments and like the upkeep and stuff like that, um, I kind of jumped into it there on the tail end there. So a decent segue, I guess, is giving your players unique, like non-monetary rewards for spending money. So it's just not solely tied to wealth. Maybe um if you fund a certain like shop or a certain like tavern, you're not going to make money from the tavern, but maybe that barkeep gives you rumors, gives you, information about conversations being had in their tavern and stuff like that. Maybe you can spend money to get like exclusive access, right? Maybe there's a sort of like highfalutin like organization in this society that has a high, like a steep gold cost, but being a member of that affords you different, you know, exclusive things you otherwise normally wouldn't get, access to certain people, that kind of thing. All ways you can kind of create these money sinks, or even knowledge, right? Maybe you want to, fund the town's like hedge wizard for his research, and in turn he gives you knowledge about things. That's another way to do that too.
Yeah, it's a lot of the options are unlimited depending
Yeah,
on how creative you want to be or what your players are looking to do.
yeah, and
Yeah,
kind. Go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, it's like the hedge witcher thing. Yeah, like opening up a library gives you
Hmm.
like while in town you get advantage checks on all knowledge skills or something like that.
Hmm. And kind of what Yap had said is like you've had it where investing in communities makes coups easier, right? You could essentially be a kingmaker if you wanted to. Maybe you wanted to usurp some like shitty nobles, you know, um, control over a village or something or a town. You know, I don't know, invest in some money into somebody else and make them take over. Who knows? Whatever your brain can come up with.
Damn. So we should have done with Dick Thornsbean so we could get good
It's
Thornsbean.
it's all possible. All you gotta do is ask about it.
It's too much information, too much possibilities.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's a possibility. Whatever your brain can come up with. Um, Another thing that I thought about too that I came up with is you talk about inflation and stuff, but not just that, but like taxes, right? Things of that sort, or fees. So think about, in campaign one, the Order of Iberus, you had to pay like your guild dues for being part of the guild in exchange for getting contracts and stuff like that. Once a month you have to do these things. It could be very easily that if you're a part of a certain kingdom and they're allowing you to do adventuring work, like they get a cut of it. It's just how it works.
Damn taxes.
It's a quick way for your adventures to hate that society because I don't think anybody likes taxes, but it's another way that you could do it if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's pretty true. You don't really get taxed as adventurers, or maybe it's just something that as players they don't think about. Like, why? Hey, we don't need to incorporate real world shit to our Dungeons and Dragons.
Hmm. Yeah, like Yap, like or conversion rates between different kingdoms' currency. If you wanted to go that granular, go for it. Another great example is where campaign two is more sort of seafaring based for the most part, is like what we talked about. I don't want to spoil anything for people who haven't watched the latest episodes, but if you're going to have a crew of some sort of a vessel, everybody on that crew has a share of the reward, right? So your players, while it would be easier to do things with the full crew in a ship, it's going to cost you. So it's easier and faster to do it, but they don't get 100% of the proceeds because they have other people that they're having to basically provide for.
Yep. Or they're gonna mutiny our ass.
Yeah, that's a great point. Village is, a money sink is if a city's afraid of magic, you couldn't use magic unless you pay for like a permit. That is rad at a campaign too. You got to be registered if you want to be an arcane user, and you can bet your ass that that includes a monetary fee. Now, our party hasn't explored that, but
Because we would never will, sons of bitches.
sure, we'll see. We'll see about that.
Yeah, we're gonna forge permits. How about that?
Go for it.
I will.
Go for it. But yeah, all sorts of ways. Can you think of anything else of like how to keep players from breaking shit?
uh I mean, again, it's really up to the DM to control
Yeah.
that stuff. But I mean, sometimes things can get out of hand, especially if you're rolling for loot and they just happen to roll something that's extraordinarily expensive and they want to sell it because no one can need it. That's a possibility. Um, Recession as a game mechanic. Oh my god. Uh,
Oh geez.
yeah, it's. I think it's really up to the game the players want to play, and then having that conversation with the DM. Because yeah, if they do want to like essentially like have a village sim and have passive income because they own a village and uh then it's really up to, I guess, you can roll for how well you do for the day or for the month,
hmm
or like, oh, well, not a lot of people came to the village today, so you didn't make that much. But
Yep.
uh,
And there's rules for that too. Like Xanathar's has one. I think is it owning a business or is that in the DMG? Uh, One of them have that where it talks about like every day you can do a roll to see how the business is doing, that kind of stuff. If you want to do that, yeah, there's running a business is one of them. But
I hope
what's
not
D&D's
village.
version of cryptocurrency?
I hope not.
Oh man, what would be D&D's version of cryptocurrency?
Uh,
Something that is inherently worthless on its own, but represents something else. I don't know.
they are little creatures that you collect, and some are rarer than others, and people trade them, but the creatures themselves don't do anything. And if the creature dies, the little critter guy passes away, then they lose all their value.
Did you just describe Pokemon?
I did, yes.
Flumph coin or Flump coin? Astral plane bucks? Yeah. I don't
Astral
know.
Bucks.
Yeah. It's funny. Oh man, yeah, I can't think of anything in D&D that would be equivalent, to be honest. Not off the top of my head anyway.
But hey, if you wanna be that character, that player who scams a bunch of people to buy said object of some value from you, and then you scam them all, then go for it.
I mean, the scamming spells are definitely in D&D.
Yes.
There's all kinds of scamming spells. Like I know that Acquisitions Incorporated one that they made was like distort value, which is basically like like a scam spell.
I am waiting to use that spell. I have
Yeah.
it, and I'm ready to
Mm-mm.
start using that thing.
Yeah. That's funny. I guess we can move on to like how to break the economy. We want to go there.
Yeah, let's do it.
Uh, I will say, of course, again, the caveat is you're not going to break the economy unless the DM lets you. So it behooves you to let the DM in on your plans, because the last thing you want is to come up with some intricate shit, and then DM's like, "Sorry, you can't do that." You might want to bring him in on that first.
I will say, it really depends on how experienced the DM and the players are. Because
Mm-hmm.
when I was like a brand new D&D player and my friends we're all new, we don't know what we're doing. We easily broke the game, like because we were just so new to the game, and we were just doing stuff that was fun to us until we became like veteran players. And we're like, oh well, we can't do this, can't do that. So I kind of missed the new player perspective because really like yeah, we broke the economy easily. We had like 40 strength, 40 charisma, all that crazy shit because we didn't really understand the rules of Dungeons and Dragons.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I would say as a caveat, like depending how experienced the players are, they can easily break it because they just either not that they don't understand the rules, but just kind of like just winging it.
Yeah. So kind of the first big bullet point that I have are like literally like player resources, like their class abilities and resources, specific skills, abilities. I have three in mind um, that I could think of, and there's probably more. And I'll let you, if you can think of anything else, or comment on these two. So
Okay.
I would say number one, the big one, is the Fabricate spell, right? Which is a fourth level spell available to wizards, artificers, and forge clerics. Basically, if you have the raw materials for something, then you can make that something. It says you can fabricate a large or smaller object, given a sufficient quality or quantity of raw material. But if you're working with metal, stone, or another mineral or substance, it can only be medium or smaller. So as long as you have the raw materials, you can do it. Um, and it says that one of the caveats is that you can't use it to create items that require craftsmanship unless you have proficiency in those tools. So this would include like jewelry, weapons, glass, armor, stuff like that.
Hmm.
So, Bama, thank you for the follow. We appreciate it.
Oh,
Um,
hey.
One thing that I would say in my mind, the first thing I thought of is, okay, I'm a wizard. Um, you just have to find some raw materials, right? Metal. Okay. You use fabricate, and I'm going to make plate armor barding. Right? Plate armor is 1,500 gold pieces. Barding is times 4 the weight and times 4 the value, right? So what does that put it at? 6,000 gold pieces for a piece of plate barding. Now you could probably argue whether that's large or medium, right? Because horses are technically large, I guess.
True.
Um, but let's say, I mean, it just says barding for your animal, so you could stretch that however you would like. Yeah, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Much appreciated.
Hi,
Glad
mama.
glad you that you did that. Um, but it says, yeah, barding's armor designed to protect an animal's head, neck, chest, and body. So you want to make barding for your mastiff, which is a medium animal or medium animal. It doesn't says it's 4 times the weight, or twice as much the weight and 4 times the cost. So 6,000 gold pieces. You normally can sell stuff for half, so 3,000 gold pieces. And you can get it from just finding metal. Maybe you have to buy the metal in the first place. Maybe you steal the metal. Who knows? You
Or
just
you invade an iron mine and
Yep.
just sit in there until you bring out wheelbarrows of items.
Yeah. So I think that's an easy way to do it. Weapons or what have you. Whatever the best weight to cost ratio is for weapons or armor, I think is your best bet. I am curious um what that would be. The weight to cost ratio. It'd be easy to calculate. I don't think I want to do it right now though.
Well, you would just buy a bunch of bag of holdings since they're uncommon and not rare, since there's so many of them.
Yeah. What I'm saying is you have like X raw material. What's something that you could make with the amount of weight of raw material that would get you the most coin back? You know.
Mm.
So for example, I'm looking at the chart now. A hand crossbow weighs 3 pounds of material, but a hand crossbow costs 75 gold pieces, right? Versus a longbow is 2 pounds, but is 50 gold pieces. You know, however much you wanna slice that. What's your best ratio? I think 75 is the most expensive straight up weapon, like equipment wise. But I think at first glance, a longbow is what 25 gold pieces per pound of wood, I guess. ish.
Hmm.
Probably be your best one. The what I'm seeing anyway, off the top of my head, doing quick math. Yep, I think it's
I'm too
probably the best
tired to do
one.
math right now. I think
Yeah.
the way to decide what you're gonna make is you buddy up with 2 factions, force them to go to war with each other, and then you're the middleman selling all the equipment and arms.
Yep, you're Nicolas Cage, essentially at that point.
Exactly.
Lord of War is that
Yeah,
movie?
Lord of Wars. Yep.
Oh my god.
That's if you wanna play that kinda game, sure, but
Yeah. I think plate might be the best cost per weight. No, a longbow's better than plate. Barely.
wow.
It's because plate weighs 65 pounds.
You just stand in the forest, you got all the materials you need to make bows.
Yeah, unless your DM's like, we gotta have string. Well, you can figure that out too.
Well, you charm all the spiders to make, reinforced spider silk, and there's
Hmm.
there's your string.
Hmm. Um, so yeah, fabricate's one way. Just dump it in the market.
I never thought about
Another,
that,
yeah,
so now you gave us some ideas.
your wizard just has to be proficient in smith tools or
Oh,
what have
okay.
you,
Well,
which is not hard to
use the
get.
downtime to learn that, but
Another money sink, downtime for training. You can do that for languages
okay.
or skills, stuff like that. Yeah, fabricate broken AF, or just be a forge cleric and you already have smith tools proficiency. Speaking of a forge cleric, another item that they can or thing they can do specifically that's a class feature and not just a spell. So they have a channel of divinity ability, which I think channel divinity. Can I even talk today? Channel divinity is you get it how many times per day? Is it one or two? I'm looking it up right now because I don't
Uh,
remember.
I think it's 2?
Yeah, and you can do a short rest to get your charges back. Oh yeah, first level or whatever level it's one, and then at sixth level you get two, and then like what does it say here? At 10th level, or sorry, at 18th level you have three. But their usage of their channel divinity as a forge cleric is artisan's blessing. Um, so you conduct an hour-long ritual that crafts a non-magical item that must include some metal. It can be a simple or martial weapon, a suit of armor, 10 pieces of ammunition, or set of tools, or other metal object. Um, and you just make it. And the caveat is that it can be something that is worth no more than 100 gold pieces. But you have to lay out, I guess, the metal or the coins. This is with the value equal to the creation. So I guess it's not that big of a loophole. But you can just make something once a day from that too.
Well, more than once a day if you
Yeah, if you're
create
short
short
rest.
rest, create short rest, create short rest.
It would require some interesting bending of the rules to get around like the value thing of having the raw materials. Like, hey,
Mhm.
is the raw materials enough to make plate? Because 1,500 gold pieces worth of like steel isn't the same as piece of plate armor by a lot more. But
Right, yeah. It's the value of the item or resources, because
yeah,
if you
it
just gather
says
it yourself, that costs you no resources.
yeah, yeah. So it says you must lay out metal, which can include coins or with a value equal to the creation. So it's loose interpretation of value, I guess. How much metal does it take to do artisan's blessing for I don't know whatever armor, I guess. Fabricate's more broken than this one, that's for sure though. That's kind of another small one if you wanted to do that. Um, the third one I thought was really fun and takes some more imagination is be a druid. I guess a bard, a druid, a ranger, a nature cleric, um, or Oath of the Ancients paladin, or an archfey warlock all have access to plant growth.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So you could do. There's two sides of plant growth. The one what I'm talking about is if you cast the spell plant growth over 8 hours, you enrich the land. So all plants in a half-mile radius. So one square mile, I think, is what that is. Maybe, I don't know. But basically centered on that point within range, they become enriched for 1 year. And then what that is, the plants yield twice the normal amount. It's just a food when harvested. So if you want to enrich the land, do plant growth. This one says specifically food. You could stretch that, I would think, because it's plant
I'm pretty
growth.
sure.
But also, so if it were me, I would do plant growth, and I would plant a shitload of saffron. Because in the player's handbook, it has a list of trade goods, and 1 pound of saffron is 15 gold pieces. So you plant some saffron, you get double the saffron, and then you do farming simulator if you want. It's really funny. An anecdote similar to what you talked about is when 5th edition was being playtested when it was D&D Next. Me and one of my friends are playing, and my friend was like, and this is when we were playing at like a local game shop, and it was like sanctioned play, like playtesting stuff. My buddy's like, I want to make a saffron farm. He's like, I want to spend my days farming this saffron and making a profit. And the DM was like, no, we're not doing that. He's like, I want to hire a hireling and pay them and have them farm saffron while I'm out adventuring. Which with this, if your DM said so, you could do that. Figure out how much yield a half mile in every direction saffron gives you. Figure out how many times that it can yield per year. You enrich the land, and then you make that amount, I guess. I don't know.
So you're telling me that Azric could have put that in his backstory, that he was a farmer for saffron, and then accumulate that wealth when we start campaign session 1 and have all that money?
I mean, we could have
Azric was
talked
a
about
druid?
it. I don't know if I just let you have like a full like farm of saffron. Maybe you were a worker on a saffron farm.
All right, so you're saying there's a chance.
But yeah, that's what I would do, I think, for like plant growth. Whatever plants yield a lot of money. I don't know, whatever's in your game, and grow drugs if you want, sell that stuff.
Or you could be a roaming plant growth for hire, and you go
Mm-hmm.
to town, and they're like, "Hey, I'm going to promise you an incredible yield of fruits, veggies, or what have you," and then you charge them for an insane fee.
Yeah, and that's something that you can do as a player too, is use those skills and sell them. Like what you're saying, if you're a wizard or if you're a cleric, sell your spells. Like, hey, I'm a wizard, I'll identify shit for you, or I'll, do whatever. Or a cleric, I'll bless your temple or what have you. It's totally doable. There's a section I think in the PHB that talks about players buying spells and services. No reason that can't work in reverse.
That's true. Not often people think about it or even remember that they can
Mm-hmm.
sell their services while they're in town or doing downtime stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think besides like straight up like player resources and like spells and stuff like that, I mean, we already talked about like managing your own business, like trying to find loopholes there, making like a legitimate saffron farm and having passive income. One thing too is that there's a whole section of like trade goods, that maybe, if you wanted to do this kind of game, your party, buys low in one port and sells high, in a different port based on like things that people need. Or you could just be a pirate and like steal from merchants and then go sell their shit at another port or
And
go through a
cash the ship
fence.
value. Boom. I guess
um,
one way I could think of, um, let's say you're a changeling and you go to the bank and ask for a loan, and you make yourself appear to be someone, get the loan, get the money, and then peace out.
mhm.
Not as crazy lucrative unless you can get some absurd amount loan from the bank. That's a possibility.
I mean, that sounds like a heist quest. You figure out, this particular noble's routine. You figure out like if they have a password with the bank or whatever, or this
Yep.
vault. And then depending on how chaotic your party is, you tie that person up for a day. Like I meant metaphorically, but you could also literally tie them up for the day, or you just kill them, I guess, if that's what you wanted to do. And then
Yeah.
you
Well,
you you basically assume that lord's identity. That's one way, and you clear out the bank.
um, another spell that I just thought of is
Mhm.
I never know how to say it. Gaius
Oh yeah.
is you can cast that spell on, yes, like a reach lordling or king or whoever, and you command them to hand over all their valuable resources.
Mhm. Yeah. I always have trouble spelling that one. So I was gonna look at it, but I have no idea how to spell it. Is it an E? Oh, it's EA,
E
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
EAS. GES.
I'm gonna look at that because that's a spell that I don't typically look at. Fifth
Yeah, that's a
level
crazy ass.
enchantment.
Oh, it's Gesh,
It's Gesh.
according according to Google Dictionary.com. Irish
What's
folklore.
that makes sense.
Gesh.
So you place a magical command on a creature that lasts for 30 days, and
Yep.
you force it to carry out some service or refrain from some action or course of activities you decide. And you have to basically do a wisdom save. And if they
Yep.
and if they act in a way that's against your wishes, they take a shitload of damage. So I guess they could just die instead.
Yeah, they could just die and not do it, but that's it's a crazy spell.
Yeah. So yeah, you just be like, hey, do all this. That's interesting for sure. Also, distort value. You were talking about that the little first level spell that came in from Acquisitions Incorporated.
Uh-huh.
That lasts 8 hours too.
Yeah, I can
Um,
you literally polish a turd and it looks great for 8 hours.
so basically, distort value says you can do one of two things as long as the object is no more than 1 foot on a side. It says doubling the object's perceived value or reducing its perceived value by half. So it's not just like anything, but it can double or reduce depending on what situation that you want. Um, and if basically the recourse is they can make an investigation check against your spell's EC to basically see through the illusion. Yeah, some of the acquisition stuff is pretty wacky, but I think that's an okay spell. Like I don't see any huge harm in that at face value. I'm sure you could break it, but there's plenty of other spells in D&D that can break the game, to be honest. So I'm fine with it. Think of any other ideas how to break the economy as a player?
Um, I think this is like Office Space, right? You're stealing pennies. So it's not like a get rich quick scheme, but over time you can accumulate wealth. So like let's
Hmm.
say you go to a rope factory and you cut all the ropes and then you tell them like, "Hey, I'll fix all your ropes by casting mending
You
for
create the
for a small
demand.
fee." Yeah. So you're just going around fixing shit for some
Yeah,
small amount. So that's I
yeah.
mean, that's not a lot of money, but it's a it's a way,
Hmm.
they'll stack up, especially if yeah, you're just breaking ropes all day.
Yeah. Shift Click, thank you for the follow. We appreciate it.
Hey, hello.
Much
Welcome.
appreciated. Yeah, I mean, mending also falls into that category of selling your services. Now, with mending being a cantrip, it's probably not going to yield you as much money as you would hope. But
Yeah, it's true, but that's why it's like a little penny theft.
yeah, pretty much. Honestly, like as an adventurer, the best way to earn money is probably like just adventuring.
Adventuring,
To
yeah.
be honest, that's sort of the best way to earn money.
Right. These crazy schemes to get rich quick. But
Yeah,
you're not putting your life on the line, you know?
hmm that's true. Although it is fun to think of these things, I especially like the plant growth one. It's just like a long game, but like having a farm seems kind of interesting.
I mean, Ron used it in the towards the end of
Yeah.
campaign 1 to re flourish his village and
hmm
home. Not to sell, but he could have, you never know.
Yeah. Go plant some plants. Yeah, I think the thing about D&D is the economy is a lot up to the DM and the players of what it's
Yeah.
going to be. Most of the stuff like never even comes up unless the players want it or the DM wants it for that fact. So like in campaign 2 being a seafaring campaign, yeah, it might come up if they want to like, take over a ship or steal a ship and sell all of its contents, to make some money. It's full of trade goods or whatever. Yeah, it might actually come up. So it'd be up to me to figure out what that looks like. What does it look like trying to sell stolen goods? What challenges
Oh,
are
yeah.
involved in that kind of stuff? Do they have to go through like a mediator? Is there like a fence that they would have to use kind of thing? Is there
Launderer.
yeah, is there already like a market for stolen goods, and are they making enemies trying to sell these stolen goods outside of the established black market? All kinds of fun stuff can come out of these ideas too, not just as
Yeah.
a way to make money.
Especially if we're merchant hunting and we're on someone's turf, some other private crew's turf. I don't know.
Yeah, and then the consequences of that is, hey, maybe the merchant vessels are easy pickings the first couple times, but once they get an idea of what happens in that area, any merchant worth their salt's going to hire some badasses to protect that merchandise as a cost of doing business at that point. So all sorts of like fun stuff to think about.
I did. Yeah. There's the just unrelated. How much would a adamantium drill cost?
Adamantium drill.
Yeah, like you can bore holes into a hull of a ship.
I guess the adamantine. I guess not
Yeah, adamantium.
adamantium. Let me look up. I forgot. Okay. So where is adamantine in? Is it in the DMG? I don't remember where that. Let me find it. Now I'm curious
Tree
about tree
fitty.
fitty.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah, cheap about tree fitty. I think I know there is like a cost associated where it talks about adamantine, because it talks about adamantine weapons and like armor. I want to say it's in the DMG where it talks about like magic items. Let me see here.
you. Yeah. Well, the adamantine armor appears in the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Yeah, but where does
Uh, Xanathar's on page 78.
man? I wish D&D Beyond had the page numbers in there because I see so much references, but like I don't know what page 78 is.
Yeah.
Adamantine weapons in the Dungeon Master's tools. Adamantine's an ultra hard metal found in meteorites and extraordinary mineral veins. It can be used to make weapons. Let's see. So yeah, the adamantine version of a melee weapon or of 10 pieces of ammunition costs 500 gold pieces more than the normal version, whether the weapon of ammunition is made of the metal or coated with it. So however much a drill is, it'd be 500 gold pieces worth more.
Okay. Just asking. No reason.
But with that being said, uh, adamantine specifically is it's basically a hit against that becomes a critical hit. So if you're looking at like drilling into something, I don't know how much that would actually do. Now that I'm like thinking through this, right? It might make the drill like more resilient, like a diamond tip drill or whatever in real life, where it's not going to break constantly on you. But I don't know if it would drill faster, to be
Okay,
honest.
well,
Because how do you equate a critical hit to like a task that's not an attack?
I mean, you're damaging the material, right? So if you're drilling through wood, for example.
So how much damage does a drill do on wood? And how much HP does the wood you're drilling into have? And what kind of wood is it made of? This could just like spiral out of control for sure.
All right. Well,
Hi
this is a good
there,
try.
Nina. How much
Any
total modified cross pistol cost? I don't know. I don't know why you want a crossbow pistol. That doesn't offer you any benefit. just use the pistol. It's better than a crossbow.
well, you can pull the ro- the spring back on the crossbow, and then if the gun flies out, and as it reaches out, there's a hook that pulls the trigger. This is the double damage.
Congratulations. You have described a repeating crossbow, which is a an infusion that the artificer can already do.
Hey, D&D addiction. We were just talking about how to break D&D economy.
Yeah, talking about ways that DMs can help with it, that can prevent this from happening, and then ways that players can try and abuse it. But long story short, it's up to the players and DMs what they want to allow and stuff like that.
Yeah, because players can try, but the DM could just be like, "No, we're not doing this." Like,
Hmm.
it's gonna derail the campaign. It's gonna this and that. Yeah, there's so many XYZ reasons, but yeah,
Hmm.
oh, as players, you can always try.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that adamantine armor is technically a magic item, but adamantine weapons are just an associated cost in the
Yeah, that is weird.
Xanathars.
Huh. So with fabricate, don't make weapons, make armor. If you're find an adamantine mining facility.
I mean, yeah, if you found an adamantine mining facility, make your plate armor, and then instead of 1,500, it's worth 2,000 gold pieces. So then make adamantine barding, which makes it, what did I say, 4 times? So 8,000. You sell it for half, 4,000. There you go. Adamantine barding, 4,000 gold pieces a pop. Just go crazy. Just take
And
over a
then you
mine.
find your loss, and then we get the magic guy. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it. Unless there's any questions from chat.
Hmm. Any questions on D&D or the economy or anything else
So,
about that?
so just to summarize, if you want to break the economy as a player, distort value, fabricate, plant growth, petty theft for mending, you break everything and then you charge people to fix things. You can gesh people,
Yeah.
which if you can gesh them to give them all your money or their money, or they die not doing it. So that's like the sad way of trying to scam money.
Or
Or if you're a changeling or
yeah.
have disguised self, you can change yourself into like a fancy noble and go to the bank and pull out all the money.
Yeah. And then if you're a DM, um, basically give your players things to spend money on, money sinks to keep them from accumulating so much wealth that it breaks the economy. So allow them to spend money on things that gives them rewards that are not monetary. So, favors, exclusive access, like specific knowledge, stuff like that. You know, give them things to spend money on that provide other benefits than just getting money back. All sorts of fun stuff like that. Or just tax the hell out of them. See how that goes over in your party.
Oh, I don't play that game. I'm out. We're gonna become then we'll just all become Robin Hood and steal from from all
And
the tax
then
people.
above all, the DM, you're the one who distributes the wealth in the first place. So if you break it, it's your fault in the first place. You made me think of something. we're like, I don't want to play that game when you're talking about getting taxed. What about the
Yeah.
opposite? All the players are tax collectors.
That's different. Yeah.
and hunt down adventurers who haven't paid their taxes. And the
So you're
cities are
basically
suffering.
you're basically the IRS parties is what you are.
Yeah, you're the IRS party with actual funding, and you hunt down all of the adventurers who dodge their taxes. So you have settlements in your kingdom that instead of flourishing, they aren't getting enough money for all the public works that this population needs, and it's all because the wealthy few adventurers who refuse to pay their fair share. How about that for a free adventure idea for you all?
You can name your adventuring party the illustrious
Requisition
repo,
squad.
yeah, requisition servicers or
Yeah.
something. There you go.
Anyway, if
I
you
like
have any other ideas, let us know on how to break the game or not break the game. And then, of course, if you have topics that you want us to talk about, we do have a specific channel in our Discord. It's under the Let's Chat tab, and it's called Talk Topics. So, Tome of Knowledge Topics. Throw that in there, and we'll cover it. So, anything you want to know, you want us to talk about, go for it. And then also, as always, please go check out our YouTube. We're just shy of a little bit of watch hours for us to hit our goal, so we can monetize and have cool emotes on YouTube and all the other fun stuff. So would really appreciate it if you would, go give it a look. Go give it a look.
Yeah, open up
Um,
a playlist, since it's, a holidays in the Americas coming up, and just let that bad boy run all day, you know?
sure. Follow your heart. Now that we have an official schedule for Tome of Knowledge, we can say that next week we're going to be discussing metagaming. And is metagaming a bad thing? And what's acceptable as a player for metagaming?
Ooh-wee.
And then the week after that, so this is the 10th, is metagaming. The 17th, my dad is going to come on the stream, and we're going to talk about his experiences with D&D in the 80s and 90s, and get some cool stories from him. And feel free to ask him any questions you want about it. It's going to be a fantastic time. So yeah, my dad's going to come on the stream and talk about D&D when he was playing it. It's very
I'm very
exciting.
excited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he remembers a lot actually. So it's going to be pretty cool. I'm very excited about that. I held off asking questions so I didn't spoil myself before then.
Well,
But
that's in 2 weeks.
yeah, but as always, Tome of Knowledge, Monday nights, 6 p.m. Pacific. We have art streams at 7 p.m. Pacific on Tuesdays, except for tomorrow. We're not going to have it on the 4th since it's a holiday. But after that, we're having art streams on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Thursdays, our Out of Combat show comes out on podcast and on YouTube. And that is where we talk about previous week's episodes behind the scenes. So 3 of the players kind of talk about some of the things that you don't get on the stream, like what their thoughts were on why they did these things, or some of the other things that they think about in the campaign. And then of course Fridays at 6 p.m. Pacific, we stream live our actual campaign. We are on episode 9 this week for our campaign.
Correct.
It's our second campaign, so definitely come check it out. It's I think it's gonna be better than the first campaign, but I'm biased. But anyway, that being said, thanks everybody for watching and hanging out with us, and we will see you next time. Hi, everybody.
Bye.